Good morning. Eating breakfast and I had a thought. You know when you develop this general consensus of a company's merch based on one of their products that you really like? In this case, raspberry mini wheats. I love this stuff. I can't eat regular mini wheats because they taste like straw. I need that icing, that jam in the middle, that substance. So based on that good taste in your mouth, you buy another product from the same company, a different flavor. Now, you expect that flavor to be just as great, if not better than the original. Then you realize it just doesn't taste as good. There's no special jam in the middle. There's no substance. It's just this artificial blueberry frosting garbage, which is fine, but it doesn't taste anywhere near as good as the original. Which leads me to my experience with the Bluesound Powernode. Let me explain.
Before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Mr. Chibs, and I review stuff that gets me fired up. Lately, it's all been hi-fi related, and I have a lot to unpack here. Everything we talk about today is my own experience and not influenced or sponsored in any way. So going forward, any salt you may detect is from my own tears, the tears of Mr. Chibs. If you've been following my tiny brand new to the world baby channel, you'll know two things. One, I mostly listen to headphones, and two, I basically fell in love with the Bluesound Node. While not a perfect solution, it solved a lot of problems I was having streaming music, and the sound I can get from it is stellar. I got to a place with my current headphone setup where I felt a rare sense of completion. I'm really happy here and not left wanting for anything. But when it came to my loudspeakers, this wasn't even close, more of an afterthought, and that was fine. The Cantos, while perfectly adequate for how I used them, didn't perform on the same level as any of my headphones. Having said that, I don't always want to have a pair of cans attached to my head to enjoy music or play a game. They get constrictive and hot after a while, and I don't always want to be tethered to wires. So I began my research with new loudspeakers, and came to a general consensus that the Keff LS50 Metas were a great start. Almost universally praised, and while not cheap, were not crazy expensive either. I love Keff's choice in colorways, especially the blue. Also, their versatility, more specifically, that they could be used in near-field setups like my office. Just remember to use those included foam inserts if you're anywhere close to walls. This was one instance where I should have read the manual and not dismissed said inserts as packaging material. I ended up using the inserts, and believe me, they make a difference. So this is all great, but these Metas aren't going to drive themselves like my YU6s, so I need an amp too. Various YouTube channels paired the LS50 Metas with Bluesound's own Powernode and gave it really positive reviews.
An easy, no-brainer, one-and-done solution.
This sounded ideal to me, and getting back to my good experience with the 2021 Node, I figured, well, that wasn't a tough decision, and my research was done. These weren't that simple to find at the time, and I think that's actually still the case, but I decided that that's the amp I was going to get, and here are some specs. Now, you gotta understand at the particular time I bought all this stuff, COVID lockdown was in full force. It was completely impossible to do in-person demos, so I was at the mercy of all these online opinions. Some were sponsored, while others were definitely biased. It's really hard to tell on here. I took a leap of faith, finally tracked one down in stock, and paid full price. I connected my new Metas and Powernode to a 2018 Samsung TV. So right off the bat, HDMI wouldn't even work through the TV. I had to run it via optical, and that worked perfectly. Streaming was a standard affair, and exactly what you'd expect with Bluesound. I can group both my Node and Powernode together, which is useful, and no hiccups connected via Ethernet directly to my main router. It worked flawlessly. We're in business. I get ear-piercing volume, so I know I'm giving the Metas adequate power, and things are good. Since this is connected to my TV, it serves as my audio hub for everything attached to it. My computer, Xbox, and the Powernode for direct streaming using Amazon Music. I turned on my Xbox and start gaming with this setup instead of the usual Sennheiser HD800Ss. Immediately, I notice a good sense of where my opponents on the battlefield are. Much better than the Kanto YU6s gave me, but not nearly as good as those HD800Ss. Still, a noticeable improvement here.
So listening to music was fine. On a subconscious level, not so much. After the initial, wow, I've got new speakers phase, I just gravitated away from my metas and back to my cans. My headphones just put a smile on my face when I listen to music, not my speakers. Was this all just overhyped and I'm a victim of the hype beast that YouTube can be? Or am I missing something? So back to research. I figure the only thing I could be missing now is bass, extra bass. Maybe I'll get more enjoyment if I pick up a sub. So I end up picking up the SVS SB200 Pro.
This is a really nice sub. I like being able to change the settings and volume from the app on my phone. This is so much more useful than walking up to the sub's rear, away from where you normally sit. You hear the difference right away, and that's an important feature.
And now I have bass.
The Bluesound Powernode also has some awesome sub integration. SVS has phone support, and it's actually good. You don't just get someone from overseas reading prompts off their computer and not really knowing how to help. You get an audio enthusiast like us. They really know their shit and will set you straight. So the dude on the phone looks up my metas and tells me exactly what to set the crossover to.
Now I have bass and all is well. No, I have bass and all is not well. I still don't bother listening to this stuff, and at this point, I'm pretty frustrated, as you can see. Maybe I'm just not a speaker guy. Maybe my smallish office has shit acoustics. Maybe my DAC in the Bluesound Powernode just isn't as good as I initially thought. I'm so new at this, and this is so discouraging because no matter what I do, I keep going back to my headphones that I thoroughly enjoy. For a basis of comparison, here's my headphone setup. It's not just detail that's lacking here. I'm missing warmth, engagement, and it's all very digital sounding compared to what I get with my cans.
Time passes and my friend Andy comes over to help me move something crazy heavy up the stairs. We ended up testing out our headphones after and geeking out over music as well as all the gear I have. He loved my focals, so much so that he ends up buying a pair of Celestis himself. When it came time to wowing him with my speakers, he explained that they were just whatever. Yes, it's not just me. We A-B'd the same song between speakers and headphones, and yeah, huge bloody difference. Here's an example of the contrast and detail we're experiencing, and I invite you to try this yourself. Listen to the first part of Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Around the 40-second mark, David Gilmour clears his throat. Now, I've always been into Pink Floyd. This is arguably one of their most overplayed songs, and somehow I've never noticed this. But listening on my Empyreans made it clear as spit.
Inside your mouth, speak!
Had to Google this, because why is someone horking in my ear? Was it on purpose? Was it a mistake? Was it this particular recording? Did something go wrong with my internet? Anyways, it's actually supposed to be there. Now, listening to this on my speakers with Powernode, and it's barely audible. Really focus, and it's sort of there, but not at a point where you would notice if you weren't specifically listening for it.
So now we're going to compare the Bluesound Node with the Bluesound Powernode. As you can see, Powernode's obviously bigger. And takes up more space, but the fundamental similarities, are obvious, and the interface is the exact same. Until we get to the back. Here's where the real differences are. So let's start with the Bluesound Node. As far as outputs, we've got RCA, we've got coax, we've got optical, we've got USB. We've got a lot of options here. It's got you covered. Inputs, we've got HDMI eARC, we've got an optical in, we've got IR in, trigger out, we've got Ethernet, of course, and that's where you put your power. Moving on to the power node, a completely different affair, as you can see. We've got binding posts. The center pops out so you can put in banana plugs, which is great. I love banana plugs. And then we've got inputs. We've got HDMI eARC. We've got 2 optical ins. We've got a sub out. We've got USB in. We've got Ethernet, IR in. That's where you put your power. So, do you see my problem here? If I want to upgrade my DAC, if I want to upgrade my amp, and I have the Bluesound Powernode, I can't. I'm kind of pickled. I tried USB out into a DAC, and it was really interesting and maybe promising because I got the exact same error message that I got before Bluesound upgraded through firmware their USB. It said DSD something or other. I'll put it up on the screen. To me, this is promising because what if Bluesound puts out an update for this, just like they did the Bluesound Node? This machine would become so much more versatile, and I'd be able to just use it as a streamer and forgo the amp and DAC. So if you're considering this machine, and at any point in the future you want to be able to upgrade your amp or your DAC, as it stands right now, you can't with this machine. You can with this. I could have whichever DAC I want and whichever amp I want connected to this machine. And that makes this so much more versatile for down the road. Bluesound, if you're listening and you have the ability to upgrade this USB so it could be used as a USB out, please do it. But as it stands right now, if you want to buy a one and done streamer DAC amp and not upgrade anything down the road, this is what you get. But if you have any inkling, if you want to upgrade any part of your system down the road besides speakers, you can't do it with this. So you've got to govern yourself accordingly. Before we wrap up, here's my pros and cons list. If there's only one takeaway that you get from my experience here, it's that you shouldn't blindly purchase expensive audio gear solely based on someone else's opinion, including my own. This stuff is way too subjective. If there's any way you can demo first, be it at a brick and mortar store, a friend's house, or borrowing gear, you'll have so much of a better experience and avoid situations like I'm in today. With that said, I can't in good conscience recommend the Bluesound Powernode with Keff LS50 Metas. They just don't sound good together, in my opinion. I'm going to stick with what works best for me for now, but I'm not going to give up. You know, usually you click on a video like this and it's all, you know, oh, amazing, great job, it's so good, the air, it's just so awesome, such a great product. Not this time. And what, you want me to give up? You expect me to throw in the towel? You expect me to submit to the looming truth that headphones are better than speakers and I wasted all this frickin' cash? No. Nope. Not going to do it. This is my audio trip, not a journey. It's my trip. Journey's stupid. So, like, subscribe, and stay tuned to part 2 of this, because there will be a part 2. Oh, there's going to be a part 2. We're going to get in the weeds, and we're going to figure this out together. Well, no, not together. I'm going to figure it. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to figure it out. You're going to watch. Anyhow, stay tuned, and I'll see you on part 2. I will see you there. This may be a 3-parter. We'll see. Definitely a part 2. Okay, I'm done. Good night.